you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are these things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as the rest of your family. For 16 years and over 2,500 episodes, going on 17 and 2,600. Geez, what more do you people want from us? We're doing 48 shows a month, and we produce stuff like the Netflix of podcasting where you can binge just about whatever the hell you want on the Chris Voss Show. But we love that you guys consume everything. It's either because I'm funny, stupid, or we just have the most amazing guests. Pretty sure it's the amazing guest part. Anyway, guys, welcome to the show. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today, we have an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking to him about his insights, his new book, and all of that good stuff. Jed Etters joins us on the show. He's the author of the latest book to come out called Shut Up and Win: Strategies to Sell Smarter, Lead Better, and Live with Purpose. Out, I believe it was May 2025. You can check that book out and order it wherever the fine books are sold there on the interwebs in the sky. Jed Etters is a seasoned sales strategist, thought leader, and captivating speaker dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations that achieve unparalleled success in the ever-changing world of sales. With over 2 decades of experience in the field, he brings a wealth of knowledge and fresh perspective to the art of selling. Jed is known for his innovative approaches and strategic insights that have transformed traditional sales methodologies. His practical advice and actionable strategies have empowered countless professionals to break through barriers, drive revenue growth, and cultivate. I'm still learning to talk here this week, folks. Cultivate lasting client relationships. When he's not strategizing the next sales conquest, he enjoys spending time with his family, flying small planes, driving classic cars, exploring the great outdoors, seeking inspiration from the people and places around him. He's always having to connect with like-minded individuals who are ready to take their business to the next level. Welcome to the show, Jed. How are you?
Chris, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Big fan of yours. You've written some great books yourself. So
there you go. So give us .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
Well, I tell you what, you can go to shutupandwin.com. We've got that website. It's got a lot of good extra information, as well as I would say, go to amazon.com if you want to buy the book. Take a look at Shut Up and Win. We're the black and white copy there, and it's packed full of great information.
Shut up and win already. Give us 30,000 overview. What's inside the new book?
Shut up and win. A lot of people will say, hey, Jed, what do you mean shut up and win? How am I going to win by shutting up? And, it really kind of comes down to this. It's really be strategic, think about what you're going to do, and then go out there and do it. Go out and win. And I think that's really the highest, the 30,000 foot level of what shut up and win really means.
I need that for my Raiders. We used to subscribe to this thing, just win, baby. And that clearly hasn't been working in the last 25 years. So maybe
my first and last Raiders game was in person in Oakland.
Oh, did you? My last one in Oakland was one with San Francisco versus the Raiders. And it was like being on a prison yard of fights and danger.
I accidentally wore a brown shirt.
Oh, wow.
And I had never watched football before live, and they were playing the Browns that day. So after getting my life threatened a few times, I bought a Raiders shirt and survived the rest of the game. Yeah, that's what I would have done too if I'd been. San Francisco, they have a rivalry that's evil, but man, I've never been so afraid in my life than the time to a Raiders game. And I was a Raiders fan.
That's the thing. I had big giant men. One guy, I had some fries. And he walked by, and I'm 6'2", and he's huge, and he's little to a friend. He goes, "Them fries pretty good?" I was like, "Yes, sir. You can have it if you want." Anyway, don't worry. So you wrote this book. Is this your first book?
This is my very first book. It took me a little bit of time. It took about 5 years. People asked me, they said, "Jed, did AI write that?" And the simple answer is, when I started writing this, AI wasn't even really a thing. So no, it wasn't.
There you go.
It was written exclusively by me.
Isn't it sad people have to ask that question nowadays? But I'd be kind of insulted too. So shut up and win. You talk about several different powerful things in this book. How to sharpen your leadership. That's one of my favorite topics, is leadership. And how to make better decisions under pressure. We're dealing with a lot of pressure these days in 2025. We got tariffs and we got all sorts of weird stuff going on economy-wise and costs and stuff. How do we deal with this? How do we sharpen our leadership and make better decisions under some of the change? AI is another big change that's happening in 2025.
Yeah, and I think, Chris, you've written books about strategy. And so, I think you're one of the better strategists. But I tell you what, one of the big things that people can do is hit actual situations head on. When we run away from situations, from difficult conversations, from difficult issues, then they have a way of chasing us down. And it's a lot more painful when we have a situation hit us than it is if we attack that situation. So when we're talking about leadership, it's everybody below us is looking for us to lead the way to success for them if we're talking about business. So I think that's a real key, is being willing to do the hard things and hitting them head on.
How has sales changed, do you think? You've been writing this book for 5 years. Now we have, AI ads systems. We have, all sorts of different technology. A lot of stuff has changed from the old days of I don't know about you, but where I grew up, where you had to go out and knock on doors and handshake the buyer for the business, and sometimes you had to bring them little trinkets to build rapport. I remember
handing out slinkies and notepads.
Yeah, I remember doing that. I was a kid in KAR products, and I would have to go sell products to blue collar places like welders and truck stops, and there was tools that we would sell. But yeah, we'd give out those pads and little screwdrivers that have our name on them and shit. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, the question being how has it changed with AI? I mean, people aren't thinking on their own. I actually even talk about that in the book. Really? It's what, there's one thing you can utilize AI, and I think it's smart to utilize it, but it's a tool. It's not a replacement. You can't rely on AI to give you 100% the correct direction. Now, you can rely on it to give you some breadcrumbs, maybe some important pieces, but at the end of the day, you need to know your job well. You need to know what you're talking about, so that way, when it adds that information, you're still leading well. Now, one of my biggest pet peeves, honestly, Chris, with AI is people that write all of their emails in AI. And there's certain things you can look for and see them, because, it used to be that you would get a quick answer. I ask somebody something, they give me an answer, right? And maybe I'm just being short. Maybe it's because I don't have this really long, patient bit in my soul. But I tell you what, now it's people beat you to death with these long-winded emails that mean absolutely nothing because they're all AI generated. So I don't know if you see that, but it drives me up a wall.
I'm kind of bad where there's people that want a response from me that I receive their email, which I find really annoying. It's they'll be like, "Can you confirm that you got this?" And it's dude, you've added more work to me. I got your email. Okay. You're going to be fine. But, there is a lot of stuff that goes to spam box now. One of my big clients just was like, "Oh yeah, your invoice went to spam box." They couldn't find it. I'm like, well, you need to pay it. I don't give a fuck. It's over there. And I've got trackers where you can track, if they open the email. But, so I kind of get it, but they always want a response. So I always use those cheap Gmail responses now, the AA ones, where it just goes, great, look forward to seeing you.
I think I got that from you last night, so thank you.
Probably did. And then Calendly has their own automated system that bugs the shit out of people to remind them of the show. Another thing you talk about in your book is mastering sales techniques that connect, convert, and close. Again, what changes? Are there any changes really to sales techniques that are happening in the world? It seems like being interpersonal and actually talking to people, sometimes picking up the phone or actually having a conversation with people seems to be more richer now and more valued than, it used to be. I couldn't get to the buyer's agent unless I really buttered up the gal at the front desk there.
I tell you what, it's an interesting question, because I think that it used to be, and maybe you'll identify with this. It used to be beat the people to death. Just keep telling them what they need to do. They need to buy. You got to buy. You got to do this. You got to do that. And then eventually these people would be so just beat up that they would just succumb to this and just
grind them down. That's what I do in dating. That's what I do in dating on Tinder.
That's how you got your wife. Okay, I get it. Maybe it was good for her, though. I don't know. But I tell you what, no, I said this in the context of sales and not in other things, but no doesn't necessarily mean that people don't want to know.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because people will say no as a reaction because they've got their defenses up because they've been beat so many times with like people trying to sell them hard. Mm-hmm. So that's just the automatic defense. If you can give them some actual value, now we're talking. Okay. Yeah. Now that no, I say no means and this is exclusively, I want to make sure people understand this is exclusively in sales. Okay. If we're talking about physical touch, no's no.
Okay.
Okay. But in sales, no generally means you didn't give me enough value. Show me some value so that I can say yes.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the thing to do is to show the value up front on the pitch. I don't know. It seems like you're right. People have that knee-jerk reaction. I think we learned that in sales. I think, that came to Zig Ziglar. A lot of people, their immediate reaction on a decision is no. And, and it's kind of a defense because everything's coming at them. I've got an email full of people pitching me all sorts of bullshit. I'm sure you do too. LinkedIn is a never ending assault of emails from people, owning a podcast for 16 years. If I had $1 for every podcast promoter that's in some third world country that, I would hate to find out how that works. And I've heard bad stories too, but geez, if I had $1 for every one of those, I'd probably be a millionaire at this point between me and my LinkedIn box. And so it's crazy out there. And so, yeah, people, I think do it, but I think more so you've really got to show and I could be wrong on this, but I think you have to anticipate the value of what stuff is, and show them what the value is before they have to say no. I don't know.
I think you're absolutely right.
You almost have to predetermine their objections.
And we're also talking about sometimes maybe you don't know what it is that would be valuable to them right away. So let's say you pitch the wrong thing. You pitch a blue car, they want a red car. You pitch a 2-story house, they want a 1-story house. You pitch the green shirt, they need a yellow shirt. You have to take another run at it, is what I say. And the thing is it really comes down to listening, okay, to hear what it is that they want up front. But sometimes, especially with people that maybe aren't experienced in sales, they go in with this pitch thinking that they've got the right thing. And so people will just automatically say no. That doesn't mean they don't want to know. You just probably hit on the wrong thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You probably just, they want red or a different color. And so many people nowadays, I don't know if this is a thing for you to talk about in the book, but so many people nowadays, they don't build rapport first before they pitch. That's a lot of stuff I get on my LinkedIn. There's no rapport building. It's just pitch. And usually there's no there's no, I grew up in the age with and I think this got copied into a movie. What was the movie? Wolf of Wall Street with the pen, sell me the pen.
Yeah.
That was, that was the 90s. That was a big thing in the 90s when I came in, but way before that movie made it popular. But it would, you give a new salesperson a pen in the interview and you'd be like, sell me this pen. And any good sales guy knows, you compile the features and then you compile the benefits that are tied to those features. It has this ergonomic, perfectly handheld thing, and that's designed to make it comfortable for long hours of writing or spending time with it, or just ease of writing, all those sort of things that, you come up with in sales. And I don't find people do the features and benefits thing anymore. It's just, hey, do you want to buy my shit?
I mean, that's kind of what it is. And
this is the title of my new book. You want to buy my shit?
Chris, it's a #1 bestseller. I'm already going to buy it from you. It's going to be the sequel to Shut Up and Win. So if you're listening to this, buy Shut Up and Win and then buy Chris's.
Somebody's going to have a book called We Don't Want to Buy Your Shit. Look, I know people want to buy my shit. That might be a better title.
I think you know what? You bring up a really good point. I think people do. There's two ways of selling, right? Mm-hmm. One is quality and one's quantity. And what do I mean by that? You can call 100 people up and say, do you want to buy this? Yes or no? They say, yes, great. Here's what you got to do. No, okay, buy. Or you can do quality, right? And you can say, hey, listen, here's what I sell, but I'd love to know, what are some of the challenges you have? Is this something that's interesting to you? And build that rapport like you're talking about. And I believe that if salespeople today, if they actually took the time, they would get twice as many sales because they'd build that rapport that you're talking about. They'd find out the values. And what happens when you add value to other people, Chris?
They tend to buy, or they tend to invest in it, right?
Well, and they tell people, right?
No,
they tell other people because the thing is like, you go, you add value, and then people go, wow, you know what? Chris really added a lot of value for me. You should talk to Chris. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of this giving mentality that really works. But when you don't have time, and that's the problem, is we are all so rushed.
Yeah.
We barely have time, and everything is a time suck. Especially, I mean, we're talking about it right here. How many emails do you get a day that you just have to delete?
Yeah. It's an insane amount. So, and evidently there's a lot of money. I don't know how America missed podcast promotion, but we get a lot of it. I mean, we've been doing this for 16 years now, 2,500 episodes. It's a long time. And so they love to hit us as a top podcast. They love to just bang my LinkedIn, and they hunt me down on every available email or access point. So the fan pages on Facebook, the groups on Facebook, they hit the Chris Voss Show like everywhere. It's insane. Even like the Chris Voss Show LinkedIn. The other day I checked into our LinkedIn, the Chris Voss Show podcast page on LinkedIn, which, you don't really get into the emails unless you go into that area.
Yeah.
And there was like a flood of them that I hadn't seen in there. I was just like, oh my God. So you talk about another thing that's in here, building unshakable confidence and emotional discipline. Sounds a little bit maybe like stoicism there. But tell us about that. I think a lot of people, maybe that's the problem in sales. They're not that confident, maybe. I don't know.
You know what builds confidence most of the time, Chris?
Kicking people's ass? No, winning fights.
That'll build your confidence.
Winning fist fights?
It's knowing what you're talking about. Right?
What?
Yeah, right.
You gotta do that too?
Yeah, I mean, you're a negotiator. You still are. That's what you do on a daily basis, right? But here's the thing: if you know what you're talking about, all of a sudden you're confident, right? Because no matter what somebody says, you know the truth, right? Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of times confidence comes from incompetence, or I should say. Being afraid comes from incompetence, right?
Yeah.
When you're not, when you have that confidence, it's because you are competent. Let me correct myself on that. The thing is that if we want to build confidence, we need to do the basic things so much that we don't even have to think about it. It becomes second nature to us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how you get unshakable confidence. And then here's the other thing is, you know what, we become, I say, success comes in pinches and teaspoons, not cups and quarts. And I say that in the book. And really, what am I saying by that? We're going to all make little tiny bits of progress typically. You don't make these giant leaps. Everybody thinks that there's just this one secret thing. You know, it's like you woke up one day, Chris, and your show was just amazing. It's been 16 years, right? That's pinches and teaspoons, right? That's not cups and quarts. And I just think that, you build that resilience over time when you have that experience.
So let's talk about some of the things that you have on your website at shutupandwin.com, and tell us about some of the offerings you have there, some of the things people can work with you on, hire you for, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I tell you what, one thing that's really worked well for people is, you get a sales group. You have a group of salespeople. Maybe they're floundering. Maybe they're new. Maybe they're wanting to be much improved. Let's say that. Is that a nice way of saying that?
No. So basically, make them less stupid. Is that what you?
Yeah, maybe, whatever it is. Let's say that they lack strategy in the way that they need to. People will have me come in. That's one thing they can do. They can have me come in and provide some structured things that will help that sales crew go out there, kick butt, take names, go out there, really make a name for themselves, but really build the confidence that they need to succeed. The other thing that people can hire me for is they can hire me to be a keynote speaker. Always happy to get up in front of the crowd, get people motivated, get them going in the direction that's going to be helpful for that business, and just get people the strategy. One thing that's really tough is so many people say out there, and maybe you've heard this before, Chris, I don't want to speak for you, but I just care. And so I want to do this because I like people, or, whatever. The tough thing is for the people like me that really do want to just see people succeed. That's a sincerity thing. Like, I truly want to see people succeed. And I get a lot of satisfaction off of seeing people go out there and do things. And so,
and then people can hire you one-on-one as well too, right?
Yeah. We can set up a coaching schedule, and, forget coaching, mentorship schedule. I think a mentor is a little bit different than a coach. And I think of myself more as a mentor.
I noticed too, there's some extra bonus materials on your website. Looks like you've got some articles and then some downloads. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, one thing that we talk about is, there's this voice in your head, right?
I've got 6.
There's 6 voices in your head. Some of them are nice. Some of them aren't, right?
There's one that says kill, kill, kill. The judge says can't use anymore. So.
You're like, I try not to listen to that one.
Try. Depends on which Friday we're on.
You got a barbecue too, right?
Yeah.
So that way you can just put it on the barbecue immediately after.
There's a lot of holes in the backyard. Let's put it that way.
Okay, well, that's good. What's your address? Because we're going to call we'll call the authorities. I tell you what,
you might be back there too. No, I'm just kidding. People, don't do that. These are jokes. Please don't.
Yes, please don't go to Chris Voss's house at 1212. No.
don't wander in the backyard. Yeah, at least anything that's got newly overturned grass. So
exactly. Actually, look for the greener grass.
Yeah, look for the greener grass. That's two things there. But did we make sure the metal was off those? Anyway, yeah. I saw a funny thing today. I'm sorry to sideline this or to segue off this, but
that's okay.
But somebody was writing, hey, why you shouldn't buy plastic skeletons? There's plenty of skeletons out in the world you can use for Halloween. They're probably buried in your backyard. And I was like, oh yeah. Anyway, sorry to stop what you were talking about.
That's an interesting one. I haven't heard that one.
It's Halloween end of this month. So
I live in California, so that's probably true.
Yeah. Probably somebody in there. I live between Nevada and Utah, so
we've got the desert.
You just go out in the West Desert, and
there's skeletons in the desert for sure.
Yeah, which mob guy was this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You one of the things you talk about is living with purpose, clarity, and resilience. And you mentioned too the emotional discipline part. Emotional intelligence, I think that's a really important thing more people need to have now today. We live in this kind of victimhood competition environment where it seems like more people, I don't know, buy my product. I'm broke and I got to feed my kids. I don't know. I see some of that on the Cash Apps and some of the singles groups. So talk to us about this emotional discipline. Is that emotional intelligence and levels of that you're talking about? And how do we develop that winning mindset?
Well, I tell you what, I had a client of mine that went and came to me and he said, Jed, you know what? I reached out to one of these people that I wanted to work with, and they didn't respond. Mm-hmm. And so I just gave up. And he goes, and I read your book and there was a piece about a convincer number. And in the book, I talk about a convincer number, and that is, that most people have a convincer number of 3. So they have to hear things 3 times to be convinced that they should do something, right? There's people that have a convincer number of 1. There's there's some people that are never convinced, right? And I talk about how to deal with that. So he goes, I read that, Jed, and I thought, you know what? Maybe this guy's got a bigger convincer number. So he emails him back and he goes, you know what happened, Jed? This was amazing. He's like, he got back to me. I guess he was a 2-time convincer. And when we're talking about, building confidence, right? Sometimes it's just having a little extra guidance, a little extra push in the right direction. And that's where I go with Shut Up and Win. It's really about mentoring people to be strategic so that way they can overcome a lot of the hurdles that they're having. A lot of the hurdles that they're having are really self-inflicted. And one thing that I tell people is, and I know this, words matter. The specific words that you use can make or break a situation. And so we talk about what are some ways to make an impact and to not say the wrong thing, maybe use some timing. There's different aspects to it, but we talk a lot about that.
What more have we talked about your book and some of the service you offer and what you want people to know about you and what you do? Sorry,
you said one more what?
Anything more that we want to talk about of what you offer and or some of the things in the book we haven't discussed?
I think that one of the things that I talk about in the book that I think would be really helpful for people, just kind of going along the lines of what you were asking me was, strike when the iron's cold. The old adage, strike when the iron's, he's like, I don't know. Strike when the iron's hot, right? You've heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I say strike when the iron's cold. And what I really mean by that is go out there, do the things that you need to do when you have the clearest mind, right? Because when you go out there and you're fired up, you're irritated, you're excited, whatever it is, if you don't have that clear mind, if that iron's hot, then that's going to cause some cloudiness. It may not give you the result that you want. And so I really encourage people, strike when the iron's cold. That's going to be a little sound bite for you. But I think you brought up a really good point, Chris, which is building rapport with people is really, really powerful. Even here you've done how many episodes of this show?
20. We're going on 2,600 here probably in a week or two.
2,600. And most people would probably assume, hey, you know what? Chris doesn't have the time to talk to me, but you're sitting here going, so many people pitch me so hard. I wish they would take the time to build a little bit of rapport.
Yeah. This is kind of different, the show, but we get like hundreds of proposals a month to come on the show. And we only do so many shows, but we do more shows than anybody. Nobody does 48 shows a month because they're smart. Our consumer base just eats it up. They love it. They consume 96% of every show. And I think the 4% is them hearing me start to rap and they go, next show, and they skip. But, you got to, and that's really podcasting. You've got to feed the audience because if you don't, they wander over to my show. But yeah, it's, I see that on Instagram or just anywhere I go. And there's not a feature benefit usually either. It's just, hey, you want to buy my shit? And you're just like, I don't even understand what your shit is or what it's going to do for me. There's an old thing where you got to solve people's problems, right? In sales. I think that's a big thing, isn't it? Still,
if you don't solve somebody's problem, what are you doing? You're creating another problem, another thing to bug them with, And again, we're all beat to death with advertisements, with people knocking on our door, which I'm going to call an advertisement, But I do want to hit on this because you did bring this up, which is, you said back in the olden days, people we'd have to go knock on doors. I would go give trinkets. You said you had a screwdriver.
Oh, we had like everything. Oh yeah. We had all this shit you could buy to
give what's people. So powerful today? Knocking on people's doors and handing a little screwdriver with your name, because nobody does it.
Nobody does it anymore.
Yeah. So you can go out there. You have to think outside the box to be original, but it's amazing how things come all the way back around.
Isn't it though? Like I noticed years ago that there was a value again. Like back in those days, the buyers for most companies that I would go to, they would be behind that gatekeeper secretary, and that woman was usually. She was like, she was like arguing with that French guy in the castle in the movie. Was it The Holy Grail? Search for the Monty Python, The Holy Grail.
Monty Python, The Holy Grail.
You take your stupid whatever and get bugger off or whatever. I don't remember the line she used, but they were those women were ironclad warriors, man. You try and arm wrestle those gals or hustle them with bullshit, man. They would kick you in the nuts and send you walking, man. You could not get past them and to the buyer unless I don't know and it didn't matter what kind of trinkets. You could bring her roses, you could bring her all the screwdrivers company name on it, the stupid pens and the pads and all the crap we used to give out. But yeah, now you just get right through and the guy's like, hey, no one ever calls me and talks to me. This is kind of different. Wow.
It's amazing how just being human, like people are like, and I do it. I don't know if you see that, but like I've received a couple of messages. Like I get the AI generated ones that I'll say, and then I get one from a real human, and you can always tell because like, hey, and I'm really sorry to bother you, but I wanted to run this by you, and I'm like, I'll respond to that because I'm like, it's so out of the ordinary that it's normal.
Yeah. I think
talking to a human.
I think with AI, that's going to make that human connection even more so important. Maybe you think.
I think it's become already more and more important. Yeah. The problem, and I was joking with somebody the other day. I said, "Hey, look, what's going to really happen in the future here is they're going to have classes on human interaction." So that way people are going to be able to talk, because they're going to be so used to being on their devices. They're going to I don't know what to do when I have a human that's right here in front of me. But I think, unfortunately, that's probably where we're headed. But you know what? Part of the book here is use your mind. That's the whole thing. Nothing can replace your mind unless you let it. and it's like the rest of your body. If you don't use your legs, they're going to grow weak. If you don't use your mind, it's going to grow weak. Stay strong. Be smart about things. I haven't yet met someone, and maybe you have, but I haven't met someone that said, Jed, you know what? I just don't want to be very successful in this role.
That's interesting. I think more and more the interpersonality or interpersonal action of people and the features and benefits. I mean, that's really the big thing. Like, it seems like a lot of the pitches that I get are all about them and not me. What is this going to do for me? And instead, it's just, really most of the pitches I think if I pulled them off of LinkedIn are like, the basic benefit is your money goes into my bank.
Daryl, the basic benefit is that I feel really good about this.
Yeah. I'm selling this product and you should buy it. And you're like, what is the benefit to me again?
This ties into one of the things that I talk about in the book. It's take I and me out of the conversation.
There we go.
So what's really interesting, if you try to have a conversation, and I would challenge you to do this, try and take the word I and me out of that conversation the whole time and replace it. So
what's a good replacement to use?
I would like you to buy this. Something that I've seen that's a value for people like you, is this product.
And here's maybe the ways they've benefited.
Here's some things that benefited other people. Perhaps it would benefit you. I don't say it's going to benefit me. I don't say, to me, you should buy it because I think it's great. And the second that you use I and me, then it's just like you said, right? You're reading all these posts, and it's like, this just benefits me, and it's not, how does it actually benefit you?
Yeah. And that's what people are concerned about. I mean, that's the whole reason you become an entrepreneur. That's the whole reason that you get into sales, is people have a problem they need solved in their life. Maybe they don't know that it's a problem. Maybe you're going to educate them of hey, there is a fix. Do you have this problem? There is a fix for that and stuff. But, like I think probably a good blue sky sort of big thing is like, the cable company will be like, hey, you can have faster internet. And you're like, for $29.95 or something more or whatever, and you're like, well, what does that do? Like, am I really going to benefit from that in some way, shape, or form? Or what are the features and benefits? And we could probably sit down with my LinkedIn inbox or my Gmail, and it is like, it is just hammer time for buy my shit. And you're like, what are the features and benefits here? What is this going to do? And then I think sometimes, so many people are selling their services. And so a lot of the message is that I and me message that you talk about in your book, where it's, I kick ass and take names, and I teach this. And you're like, what do I get out of this situation? How do my problems get solved? And that's really what most people are sitting around focusing on. I mean, anytime you buy a product is, you buy a drink at the store because you're thirsty. You're solving a problem. And I think more people need to approach sales with, what problems is this product solving? Because there's a lot of products out there. I saw someone talking about this in TikTok. There's a lot of products out there that don't really advertise themselves as solving a problem. Like Meta Glasses is one. They just go, hey, Meta Glasses, it's got cameras and shit in it and AI. You want to buy it? And I have Meta Glasses. They're great. One of the reasons I buy them is so that I can have, I usually have two Huskies. Right now I'm in between, and I just have one. But I love having the first person video shooting so that I can pet both of them, or I can take video where we're on a walk. But and when I get my puppy here, probably in a few more months, I'll be able to hold it in my hands and videotape it. Where, if you're trying to hold a puppy and you're trying to work the camera, it's just impossible. You get shit shots. And I still have great video of Google Glasses back in the day of my dogs that are just invaluable, they're irreplaceable. And so, but they don't sell that feature. They just go, hey, it's got a camera in it, and I don't know, you can record shit if you want, I suppose.
And this goes to time, right? Because it's really like, in order to find out, we started this whole conversation with, well, you should have pitched the value to begin with. How do you pitch the value to someone if you haven't asked the question? And, part of the thing is that, you need some kind of information to find out what people need. And I try to really say this, is that sales is really not sales. Okay. I don't sell anything. Sales is really a leadership position. Because if people want to buy something from you, it's because they have a need, like we just talked about, and they're looking to someone that is better at doing that, or they believe is going to lead them to winning in that situation better than they would do on their own. Otherwise, people would do it themselves.
Yeah, they would. Well, this has been a great discussion. I love this discussion we've gotten into about features and benefits. Hopefully remind people to, maybe improve their things, ask people, in my sales organizations, we always ask the question, what are you trying to accomplish when we sell people? And that's the very first question I demand. has to be asked. And boy, anytime they don't ask that question, we sometimes end up down the road where the person's like, this is what I wanted. I didn't want this. I wanted that. When we had the mortgage company, it was like somebody every now and then would ask for a 15-year, but most people ask for a 30-year mortgage. And, the salesperson didn't ask the question because we do recordings and monitor calls and stuff. And, usually if I walk the office and I heard somebody saying that, I'd be like, you're not saying my line. And so they wouldn't listen to what the client wanted. They'd assume what the client would want because they didn't ask, what are you trying to accomplish? And it's a better version of the, how can we help you? Everyone hates that. And they have that knee-jerk reaction that we talked about at the beginning of the show. But establishing what people want to accomplish, what problems they're trying to solve, I think is really important.
It's the most important if you're going to lead people to success.
Yeah. Or if you're going to be an entrepreneur. I see a lot of products that I've seen, over decades of experience, especially stuff out of Silicon Valley that has been pitched at me, that you look at it and you go, what is this? Who is this trying to solve the problem? Like, I don't know. We got some VC money and it sounded like a good idea at the time. And you're just like, okay, have fun with that. So as we round up the show, it's been wonderful to have you on, Jed. Give us your final pitch out for people to pick up the show, how they can reach out to you, order up your services, engage with you, find out more data if they need to, et cetera, et cetera.
I would say this, ask yourself this question or these questions, am I producing the results that I want? Could I use some additional strategy? Can I maybe reach new heights with some guidance, with a mentor? And one of the great things that you can do is you can go to Amazon, you can buy Shut Up and Win, take a look at the book. I have it in Audible. It's probably very torturous because I'm the one who actually spoke in it. So you're going to have to listen to my voice the whole time.
You got a great voice.
I joke. It's I try to be very engaging. I try to be to the point. And, it's 25, plus years of hard learned experience that you can benefit from. So you just don't have to experience the pain and the agony of learning how to do things the wrong way so that you can figure out how to do it the right way. So I'll leave it on that. Like,
there you go.
Take a look at this book. If it's right for you, buy it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Jed. We really appreciate it. Amazing discussion, sir.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. And thanks for tuning in. Order up Jed's book wherever fine books are sold. It is entitled Shut Up and Win: Strategies to Sell Smarter, Lead Better, and Live with Purpose, out May 29th, 2025. Thanks to our audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. If you're a podcast promoter, I don't need your services. Thank you. And all the other groups and stuff for me and the Chris Voss Show on the interwebs. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out.